When was the last time you sat in complete stillness, doing absolutely nothing? No scrolling, no planning, no producing, just being. Can you even remember? Or does the very thought of it make your skin crawl, your fingers itch for distraction, your mind race toward all the things you should be doing instead? There's a reason for that discomfort. In a world engineered for constant motion, stillness has become an act of rebellion. In a culture that measures your worth by your output, doing nothing has become the most radical thing you can do. You've been conditioned to believe that your value lies in your productivity, that empty spaces must be filled, that silence must be broken, that rest is laziness disguised as self-care. But what if this relentless activity is precisely what's keeping you trapped? What if the constant doing is preventing you from becoming? What if your addiction to movement is actually a sophisticated form of hiding? This is not a video about meditation techniques or mindfulness apps. This is about something far more fundamental: the courage to stop, the bravery to retreat, the power that emerges when you finally lay down your weapons of distraction and face the silence you've been running from all your life. You stand now at a crossroads. To the left lies the familiar path of perpetual motion, the endless chase for more, better, faster. To the right, a territory most find too threatening to explore, the vast unknown landscape of simply being. Which will you choose? The comfortable exhaustion of doing or the uncomfortable liberation of non-doing? The speed of modern life has become a collective madness we've mistaken for normal. Your calendar is weaponized against you. Your attention is monetized without your consent. Your worth is measured in metrics and milestones. And you've internalized it all. You wear your busyness like a badge of honor. I'm just so busy, you say, with that curious mixture of complaint and pride. As if your lack of time were evidence of your importance, as if your exhaustion were proof of your value. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu recognized this tendency thousands of years ago when he wrote, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." He understood what we've forgotten, that true power often lies in restraint, not exertion. Look at the natural world. A seed doesn't force its way into becoming a tree. It surrenders to a process of growth that includes long periods of apparent inactivity. The mightiest river begins with water that pooled and gathered before it flowed. The most fearsome predators conserve their energy, moving only when necessary. Yet you've been taught to override your natural rhythms, to push through fatigue, to hustle harder, to optimize every waking moment. You've been sold the lie that constant activity is the path to success, to recognition, to fulfillment. When was the last time you felt truly rested? Not just physically, but mentally. When was the last time your mind wasn't fractured into 1,000 pieces, each one chasing a different task, a different worry, a different distraction? This isn't just exhausting. It's making you less effective, less creative, less alive. Neuroscientist and author David Eagleman notes that creativity happens in the space between thoughts. Your best ideas, your deepest insights, your most meaningful connections. These emerge not from frantic activity, but from the spaces between. But these spaces terrify you, don't they? Because in stillness you might have to face what you've been outrunning with all this motion. In silence, you might hear the whispers of discontent you've been drowning out with noise. In solitude, you might meet the self you've been too busy to know. The modern world has weaponized your fear of emptiness. Every app, advertisement, and social media platform is designed to exploit your discomfort with doing nothing. They've turned your attention into a commodity and convinced you that constant engagement is normal. But this isn't normal, it's new, and it's destroying you. Your ancestors didn't live in a state of perpetual distraction. They experienced boredom, solitude, and stillness as natural parts of existence. They had built-in periods of forced inactivity, when darkness fell, when winter came, when waiting was the only option. In these empty spaces they dreamed, they processed, they integrated, they became. You've been robbed of these essential voids. Every potential moment of nothing has been filled with something, usually something designed to keep you consuming, scrolling, clicking, watching. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the achievement society, a world where idle time is seen as wasted time, where productivity has become a religion, where we have become achievement subjects, endlessly exploiting ourselves. The complaint of the depressive individual, "Nothing is possible," Han writes, can only occur in a society that believes nothing is impossible. When everything is possible, everything becomes mandatory. When you can always be doing something, doing nothing becomes inconceivable. Look at how you've internalized this logic. You feel guilty for resting. You apologize for taking time off. You bring work on vacation. You check emails in bed. You turn leisure activities into productivity tasks, tracking your steps, optimizing your sleep, gamifying your meditation. Even your self-care has become another form of labor, another box to check, another thing to optimize, another area where you're not doing enough. When did existence become so exhausting? There's a term in music for the space between notes, rest. Without these rests, music would be just noise. The silence is what gives meaning to the sound. The pause is what creates the rhythm. The emptiness is what shapes the form. Your life has lost its rests. It has become a cacophony without structure, a constant blaring that destroys meaning rather than creates it. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, understood the necessity of retreat. He built a small stone tower at Bollingen, where he would withdraw from the demands of his professional and social life. In this place of solitude and simplicity, he did some of his most profound work. Jung wrote, "In my case, Bollingen meant a great deal. It is a fulfillment of my yearning for a piece of earth in which I am rooted. I have done without electricity and tend the fireplace and stove myself. Evenings I light the old lamps. There is no running water and I pump the water from the well. I chop the wood and cook the food. These simple acts make man simple, and how difficult it is to be simple. How difficult indeed, and how necessary. You don't need a stone tower to practice the art of retreat. You need only the courage to stop, to withdraw, to say no, to create boundaries around your attention and your time that are as sacred and non-negotiable as the borders of a nation. Because that's what you're defending, the sovereign territory of your own being. When you allow every external demand immediate access to your attention, you are no longer the ruler of your own kingdom. You've been colonized by others' priorities, others' emergencies, others' expectations. Strategic withdrawal isn't weakness. It's the ultimate form of strength. It's the lion who retreats to the shade, conserving energy for the hunt. It's the general who pulls back troops to gain a better position. It's the artist who steps away from the canvas to see the whole picture. What might you see about your life if you stepped far enough away to view it as a whole? What patterns might become visible? What distortions might be revealed? Perhaps you're thinking, this sounds nice, but I have responsibilities. I have deadlines. I have people depending on me. Yes, and the irony is that your constant doing is making you less capable of meeting those responsibilities effectively. Your refusal to rest is diminishing the quality of everything you produce. Studies in cognitive science show that mental fatigue impairs decision-making, creativity, and emotional regulation. When you're chronically busy, you're chronically impaired. You're operating at a fraction of your potential while feeling like you're giving everything. The most productive people in history understood the power of strategic withdrawal. Winston Churchill took naps during World War II. Einstein played violin when stuck on a problem. Bill Gates takes think weeks in a cabin in the woods. They recognized what you've forgotten, that doing nothing isn't the opposite of productivity, it's the foundation of it. But your resistance to stillness goes deeper than practical concerns about getting things done. It touches something more primal, more frightening. When you stop doing, you start feeling. When you step off the hamster wheel of perpetual activity, you have to face what all that busyness was helping you avoid: uncertainty, dissatisfaction, emptiness, grief, longing, fear. The philosopher Blaise Pascal observed, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." When you finally sit in that quiet room, you meet not just silence, but yourself, with all your uncomfortable truths and unfaced realities. This is why true non-doing is an act of courage. It's not passive withdrawal from life's challenges. It's a direct confrontation with the ultimate challenge, the raw experience of being human, with nowhere to hide and nothing to do about it. When did you decide that you couldn't handle your own company without distraction? When did you determine that your natural state was so unbearable that it had to be constantly medicated with activity? These aren't accusations. They're invitations to examine the underlying beliefs that keep you running, even when there's nowhere left to go. The Japanese concept of ema refers to the space between things, the gap, the pause, the interval. In traditional Japanese arts, this empty space is not seen as absence, but as a powerful presence. In architecture, it's the empty room that gives form to the house. In conversation, it's the silence that gives weight to the words. Your life has lost its ma. The space between activities has been compressed to nothing. The boundary between work and rest has dissolved. The distinction between connection and distraction has blurred. You live in a constant middle state, neither fully engaged nor fully at rest, neither completely present nor completely absent, neither truly working nor truly recovering. This gray zone of half-presence is where your potential dies. It's where your energy leaks. It's where your life force slowly drains away, one notification at a time, one distraction after another, one more email before bed. The antidote isn't just better time management, or digital detox, or any other productivity hack. It's a fundamental revolution in how you relate to time, attention, and the white space of life. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, known for his research on flow states, discovered something surprising. The most fulfilled people were those who could fully engage in activity and fully disengage in rest. They moved between states of doing and being with intentionality and completeness. What would it look like to bring that kind of intentionality to your withdrawal? Not a guilty, apologetic retreat when you're already depleted, but a strategic, purposeful claiming of space before you need it desperately. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. Not just for your well-being, but for everyone who depends on you. As the philosopher and poet David Whyte puts it, the antidote to exhaustion is not necessarily rest. The antidote to exhaustion is wholeheartedness. Wholehearted rest, wholehearted retreat, wholehearted claiming of the space in which you can become whole again. There's a particular kind of anxiety that arises when you first practice strategic non-doing. It's the withdrawal symptom of addiction to activity. Your mind races. Your body fidgets. You feel a gnawing sense that something important is being neglected. This discomfort is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's evidence that you're finally doing it right. The spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle describes this as the pain body, the accumulated emotional pain that lives within you. When you stop distracting yourself, this pain rises to the surface. Not because stillness creates it, but because stillness finally allows you to feel what was already there. The pain body doesn't want you to observe it directly and see it for what it is, Tolle writes. The moment you observe it, feel its energy field within you, and take your attention into it, the identification is broken. A higher dimension of consciousness has come in. This higher dimension of consciousness, this capacity to observe rather than identify with your discomfort, is what strategic withdrawal helps you develop. It's not about escaping life's difficulties. It's about building the inner resources to meet them with presence and clarity. Think of it like strength training for your attention. Just as a muscle grows stronger through the cycle of stress and recovery, your capacity for focused attention grows through the rhythm of engagement and retreat. But there's a difference between strategic withdrawal and avoidance. One is conscious, the other unconscious. One is purposeful, the other reactive. One leads to greater engagement with life, the other to progressive disconnection. How do you know the difference? By the fruit it bears. Does your retreat leave you feeling more available to your life or more removed from it? Does it increase your capacity for presence or your addiction to absence? Does it deepen your connection to yourself and others, or does it further fragment your already scattered attention? The paradox is that true non-doing isn't passive at all. It's one of the most active choices you can make in a world designed to keep you reacting rather than responding. What makes strategic withdrawal so powerful is precisely what makes it so threatening to the status quo. When you stop participating in the collective madness of perpetual activity, you create space for something new to emerge. New perspectives, new priorities, new possibilities. In that space, you might realize that much of what seemed urgent isn't important at all. You might discover that relationships you've neglected matter more than achievements you've pursued. You might find that your endless striving was a sophisticated form of avoidance, a way to stay busy enough not to notice that the path you're on isn't taking you where you truly want to go. This kind of realization is dangerous to systems that profit from your disconnection from yourself. It's threatening to an economic order that needs you consuming rather than contemplating. It's disruptive to social dynamics that value appearance over depth. The Roman philosopher Seneca understood this when he wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." He recognized that the busy person becomes scattered, diffuse, ineffective, not just in practical matters, but in the essential project of building a meaningful life. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power, Seneca advised. True power doesn't come from controlling others or accumulating external markers of success. It comes from sovereignty over your own attention, your own time, your own priorities. This sovereignty requires boundaries not just with others, but with yourself. It demands that you become the gatekeeper of your own kingdom, carefully considering what you allow in and what you keep out. When was the last time you felt truly sovereign over your own attention? When was the last time you made a conscious choice about where to direct your focus, rather than reacting to whatever screamed loudest for your notice? If you can't remember, you're not alone, but you are in danger. Because a life without boundaries around attention is not really your life at all. It's a life shaped by algorithms, manipulated by marketing, directed by others' priorities. It's a life where you're always responding, never initiating, always reacting, never creating. Strategic withdrawal breaks this pattern of reactivity. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own existence. There's a striking pattern in the lives of history's most impactful figures. They all practiced some form of strategic withdrawal. They all found ways to step back, to retreat, to create space for depth and clarity. Gandhi observed a day of silence each week. Einstein took long walks. Maya Angelou rented hotel rooms where she could write in isolation. Jesus withdrew to the wilderness. Buddha left palace life to sit under the Bodhi tree. These weren't acts of escape. They were the necessary foundation for their world-changing work. This pattern reveals a profound truth. Transformation doesn't happen in constant motion. It requires periods of apparent non-activity, times of integration, spaces of incubation. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly while frantically crawling from leaf to leaf. It builds a chrysalis, a space of retreat, where the miraculous metamorphosis can occur. What is the chrysalis in your life? Where is the protected space in which your own transformation can unfold? How might you create this space not as an occasional luxury, but as an essential practice? These aren't theoretical questions. They're practical ones that demand concrete answers. Because without this space, you remain stuck in endless doing without becoming, activity without transformation, motion without evolution. And isn't that the definition of exhaustion? Movement that takes you nowhere new. Nietzsche captured this when he wrote, "The biggest challenge of maturing is learning to remain still in a world that wishes to constantly keep you busy." Maturity isn't about accomplishing more. It's about discerning what truly matters and having the courage to let the rest fall away. This discernment can only emerge from stillness. Only when you step off the treadmill can you see that it was never taking you anywhere. Strategic withdrawal isn't just about personal wellness, it's a political act. In a system that commodifies your attention, choosing where to direct it becomes revolutionary. In a culture that measures your worth by your productivity, claiming your right to rest becomes radical. In a society that profits from your disconnection from yourself, turning inward becomes an act of resistance. The activist and scholar Tricia Hersey, founder of the Nap Ministry, frames rest as resistance to white supremacy and capitalism. Rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy, she explains. For marginalized communities especially, rest becomes a way to reclaim our power, our energy, our time. This isn't about escaping our responsibilities to each other or the world. It's about showing up more fully, more powerfully, more sustainably. It's about refusing to be depleted by systems designed to extract maximum value from your life force while giving minimum support to your wholeness. When you withdraw strategically, you're not just changing your relationship with time and attention. You're changing your relationship with power itself. You're declaring that your worth isn't determined by your utility. You're asserting that your time belongs to you first, not to employers or platforms or others' expectations. You're reclaiming your right to set the pace and parameters of your own existence. This is why doing nothing can be the most aggressive act, because it challenges fundamental assumptions about human value and purpose that underpin entire economic and social systems. The question isn't whether you can afford to withdraw, it's whether you can afford not to. What systems are you propping up with your exhaustion? What powers are you feeding with your fragmented attention? What narratives are you reinforcing with your inability to stop? These questions aren't meant to induce guilt. They're invitations to see the broader implications of personal choices that might seem insignificant, but are in fact deeply consequential, not just for you, but for the collective. Perhaps you're thinking, this all sounds nice but impractical. My life doesn't allow for withdrawal. But consider this. If your car were running out of gas, would you keep driving until it stopped completely? Or would you make a detour to refill the tank, knowing that this apparent delay actually enables the journey to continue? Your strategic withdrawal isn't a detour from your life. It's what makes your life sustainable. It's not an indulgence. It's a necessity as basic as refueling. The martial artist Bruce Lee understood this when he said, "It's not the daily increase, but daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential." True mastery isn't about adding more activities, more commitments, more accomplishments. It's about subtracting the non-essential to reveal what matters most. This subtractive approach requires courage. It demands that you disappoint people's expectations. It insists that you tolerate discomfort, both your own and others. It asks you to value depth over breadth, quality over quantity, presence over productivity. In practical terms, this might look like blocking periods in your calendar for nothing, not for catching up or personal development, or any other disguised productivity, but for genuine non-doing. Creating boundaries around technology. Not just occasional digital detoxes, but ongoing practices that put you in control of when and how you engage. Learning to say no without explanation or apology, recognizing that your time and attention are finite resources that require fierce protection. Practicing strategic incompleteness, deliberately leaving tasks undone, recognizing that good enough is often better than perfect. Embracing boredom as a gateway to depth, allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of unfilled time without rushing to alleviate it. None of this is easy in a world engineered to keep you busy, distracted and producing, but that's precisely why it's so essential. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl observed that between stimulus and response lies a space, and in that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. Strategic withdrawal is about widening that space, creating room for choice where before there was only reaction. The truth is, you already know this. Some deep part of you recognizes that the pace you're keeping isn't sustainable, that the constant doing isn't bringing you closer to what matters most, that something essential is being lost in the noise and motion of modern life. You've felt it in moments of unexpected stillness, a power outage that suddenly silenced the background hum of electronics, a snowstorm that cancelled everything and gave you a day without obligations, a brief pause between activities when you suddenly glimpsed a different way of being. In those moments beneath the initial anxiety, didn't you feel something else? A relief, a recognition, a remembering of what it means to simply be. This isn't nostalgia for a simpler time. It's your body and soul recognizing what they've always known, that human beings weren't designed for perpetual activity. That rest isn't a luxury, it's a biological and spiritual necessity. That silence isn't empty, it's pregnant with possibility. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke captured this when he wrote, "I believe in all that has never yet been spoken. I want to free what waits within me so that what no one has dared to wish for may for once spring clear." What waits within you? beneath the layers of busyness and distraction. What hasn't yet been spoken because there's never enough silence to hear it? What hasn't yet emerged because there's never enough space for it to form? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're the essential inquiries that strategic withdrawal makes possible. Because the power of doing nothing isn't really about nothing at all. It's about creating the conditions for something new to emerge, something that can only arise from the fertile void of non-doing. If this room has given you something, a moment of recognition, a breath of possibility, a glimpse of a different way of being, I invite you to pause, to breathe, to let these words settle into the places within you that have been waiting to hear them. Perhaps there's a part of you that feels resistance, that wants to dismiss this as impractical idealism, that fears what might happen if you actually created more space in your life. Honor that resistance. It's telling you something important about where your growth edge lies. But also listen to the part of you that resonates with these words, the part that recognizes a truth you've always known, but perhaps forgotten. The part that longs for the space to become who you're meant to be, not just do what's expected of you. If a particular line or idea has struck you, let it linger. Let it work on you. Let it become a seed that might, with care and attention, grow into a new way of being. And if you feel moved to share what's awakened in you, leave your reflection below. Not as a comment, but as a testament to your presence here. As a marker of your commitment to creating more space for what matters most. The world doesn't need more of your exhaustion, your fragmentation, your half-presence. It needs your wholeness, your clarity, your fully embodied being. And that can only emerge from the courage to sometimes do nothing at all. What part of you needed to hear these words today? What might become possible in your life if you created more space for strategic withdrawal? What first small step could you take toward reclaiming the power of non-doing? The answers live in the quiet space within you, the space that opened even if just for a moment as you sat in this room, the space where transformation begins,